The Retirement Café Podcast, episode 80, Travelling Solo in Retirement with Janice Waugh.
Retired or thinking about retirement? You've come to the right place. Welcome to the Retirement Café Podcast. In each episode, we bring you an important conversation with insight, tips and knowledge, all designed to help you live a fulfilling and successful life in retirement. Here's your host, Chartered Financial Planner and Accredited Later Life Advisor, Justin King.
Hello and welcome to the latest episode of the Retirement Café Podcast, which is brought to you by the Timeline app. Timeline app is retirement income planning software that helps financial planners like me bring your retirement journey to life and answer your big retirement income questions. Now, have you ever considered traveling solo? Maybe you're a dab hand at it and have been traveling alone for many years, or maybe you're just considering you're taking your first trip. This week, I'm delighted to share my conversation with Janice Waugh. Now, Janice lives in Toronto, Canada, and she is the go-to authority on the topic of solo travel. In 2009, she founded Solo Traveller, a website she conceived so that she could understand and get better information about traveling alone, and join me to tell us more about it. This episode is the second in our series of travel. If you missed the first episode with Gary Bembridge from Tips for Travellers, check out episode 78. I recorded this conversation with Janice before the travel restrictions we've been facing in recent weeks, but hopefully those of you with the travel bug will be able to resume your normal travel very soon and will find Janice's advice helpful. So without further ado, I hope you enjoy my discussion with Janice Waugh. Welcome to the podcast, Janice.
Thank you very much. I'm happy to be here.
Well, thank you for joining me all the way from Toronto. Well, could you tell our listeners a little bit about yourself and your background?
Well, what would be relevant for your listeners is that I'm a mom and a grandma.
Wow.
So I have lots of grandchildren and the like. And I've been traveling since I was 15. My first trip was an organized biking tour of North Wales and Cornwall.
Oh, wow. That's
so it was a whole month long. And I neglected to send my parents a postcard until about the third week. Which had a lot of trouble when I got home because it wasn't like people picked up the phone or, anything at that time. This was in the early 70s. So, so I'm a lifelong traveler.
Great. Yeah. And so, where did the whole idea about the kind of solo traveling website and all that come about? There must have. Did you suddenly become a solo traveler?
Well, I had traveled solo, in the past. In my 20s, I took a couple of trips, things like this, and then family and did a lot of family travel. Actually, did one 10-month trip in Europe where I homeschooled our youngest and he learned a lot of geography and not a lot of science. My strength is in history, he got what I could give him. But shortly after returning from that trip, my husband got sick, and in 2006 he passed away.
Oh, wow.
So we obviously had traveled a lot, and a couple of years later, I found myself, grief is a very cyclical thing, and it doesn't, just go out the door and then that's it. So I found myself on a dreary February Saturday in Toronto. And I always found the weekends more difficult because during the week people are, active, and then in the weekends they kind of, go into their own little cocoons with their family and the like. So I found the weekends more difficult. Saturday was, it was, as I say, dreary. I was sitting on the couch and I truly just said, I guess I'm traveling solo. And I was a freelance writer at that point. So a business writer. And I picked up my computer, which was almost always beside me, and Googled solo travel. And the first thing that came up was something that was really spammy and, about hookups and, things like that.
Right.
Like singles cruises and things of that nature. I thought, oh my God, there's got to be something. There has to be a different voice out there. Yeah. And so that was the Saturday. My niece came into town that day, and I took her to the museum, and I went, "What do you think of this?" Right? And she went, "It's a great idea," because she just come back from traveling South America. And the next day, I started.
Wow.
It was that. It was that immediate. It was that. It just sat so right with me that that I started working on the project at that point.
Yeah. So this was 2009, was that right?
2009, yeah, February 2009.
Okay, so kind of 3 years after your husband had passed on.
Yeah, 2 years and 2 months.
Okay.
It was because he died in December.
And so where was the first trip?
Well, the first trip after I started the site, I had done one trip before starting the site, and to Havana and Cuba, and that was very eye opening. To travel at that age, I was 50, 51, somewhere in there, and it was a different kind of experience and a little nerve wracking, but I settled into it. Right, it took some time to settle in, so a lot of it was very good for me to have an uncomfortable experience traveling solo, because I've not lost that. I've not forgotten about that. And it helps me understand other people who are maybe a bit hesitant at the beginning. But my first trip after starting the site was a trip I had tried to get one of my sons to take with me for years. And he just, like 20-year-olds don't want to travel with you, right? so it was a trip down the Blues Highway from Chicago to New Orleans. And rather than drive it, because I didn't really want to do that by myself, I took the train.
Wow.
And it was fantastic. Yeah, it was really wonderful. And, I kind of set it as my goal to visit as many blues bars as I could, which, again, could be really uncomfortable at times.
Yeah.
But I learned how to do it, right? I learned what to do to feel safe. And I had some spectacular experiences as a result.
Wow.
Yeah, it was really good.
Yeah, great. And I can imagine, we deal with the retired audience. That's the whole idea of the Retirement Cafe, is to kind of inspire and educate people to have a fantastic, fulfilling retirement. And obviously, this whole experience of traveling together as a family and then suddenly traveling solo, I think could be a bit daunting.
Mm-hmm.
Tell me about. You have. I think I saw the figures. Something like 450,000 people are hitting your website on a regular basis. So tell me about the kind of feedback you get from people, and what are they getting up to?
Well, it's interesting. It varies a lot. So we have an email list, and the list is just over about 54,000, somewhere in there now. Yeah. And we mail every Monday. So every Monday it's of the month. So four Mondays of the month, we send an email, and it's a different kind of email every Monday. Okay. And every Monday I get all these emails back, and so I'm, responding to them, and it's a variety of things. Sometimes it's like, I'm doing it. I've been reading you for 2 years, and I'm off on my first trip, right? Yeah. And others, it's like one woman from yesterday. I booked myself a 2-bedroom apartment in Puerto Vallarta, and I'm looking if someone wants to join me for a week or a day or whatever, that would be wonderful. So it's just the whole range of things. We don't facilitate the connection of travelers to travel together. Right. Not simply because we're hardcore solo travelers.
You must be on your own.
Yeah, no, because when I travel solo, I often pick up with other travelers, and we'll do things together and things like that. No, that's one of the best parts of solo travel, I think, is that you get to meet more people because you're not so, insular. You're not so connected to each other. Yeah. But I'm not comfortable with people connecting over the internet and not having this face-to-face understanding of, being able to read them a little bit better as to who they are, and then making a decision on a face-to-face level as opposed to connecting people. So we don't go there, but we try to do everything else. And we do even, we have a post on how to find people to travel with, right? But it's not just, us putting them together.
No. And so for people making that first kind of step out to solo traveling, what I mean, I appreciate they can just come to your website and find out, but now we've got you live in front of us. So what are the things that you think that they're worried about, and what are the things that you can educate them on to make a successful solo traveling trip?
Right. There are really two ways to travel solo. One is to go with a tour that you've and you're joining that tour alone, right? And there are companies that just have solo travelers. And then there are tour companies that treat solo travelers really well in terms of the single supplement. Are you familiar with the single supplement? Should I explain?
Yeah. So this is the idea that you pay. Well, you pay a little bit more if you're traveling alone. Is that right?
Yeah, and sometimes a lot more.
Ah,
So when I started back, 10 years ago, that supplement could be 100%. That's a lot more. Now it's more negotiable, and we have a list. We have our deals page on the site, and that is a list of between 20 and 30 companies offering trips with no single supplement or a low. We have a 20% threshold,
right.
and that's hard to find. 20%. More typically, it's 35 to 50% now.
Right.
So, anyways, so people can. It's the two ways of solo travel. One is to join a tour as a solo traveler, right? And the other is to actually go independently as a solo traveler. And when I started this, I really was an independent solo traveler, and I'd never really thought about the tour side of things. But I had already been writing about what it is to be a solo traveler, and what it means a lot to me is leaving behind everyone and everything that defines you on a daily basis, right? Because people have expectations of you. You have certain interests, and those are the interests that you get to follow at home and things of that nature. Whereas when you travel solo, there's no one there kind of defining you and having expectations of you in terms of, what you're going to do, when you're going to do it, how you're going to do all that kind of thing. And the fact is that whether you travel solo with a group or whether you travel solo independently, you leave behind all those people that have expectations and definitions for you.
Yeah.
So both sides, both ways are legitimate. So when it comes to someone's first trip, I always ask, how well traveled are you?
Right.
So if you have a lot of experience traveling in general, then to travel solo is not that big a deal. The logistics, those little details, you are more familiar with.
Yeah.
And what you have to adjust to is the idea of being by yourself. So it's a matter of really taking a little bit more time, assessing, watching the world go by, finding ways into the community, finding other courses that you want to take or tours that you want to take, like day tours, things of that nature. So it's really about being more patient with yourself as you enter a new destination. On a tour, that's where everything is taken care of for you. And so going on a solo travel tour, a tour as a solo traveler is an easier way in as well. And then there's that combo, right? Someone who's going to a destination that's more challenging for them. So start with a 5-day tour and then go off on your own. So there's many things about starting solo traveling solo. There's many issues to consider, many ways to enter the solo travel space.
So what would give me an example of some of the most exciting trips maybe you've done or some of your subscribers have done? You've kind of gone, wow, that's just an amazing kind of experience.
Yeah. So one trip that changed my life was very early on, and I went to the Lake District.
Ah.
Yeah. And you'd think I'm a Canadian girl, right? All that big outdoors. I have been a city person my entire life.
Oh, wow.
Right? And hiking was not, or walking, as it's called in the UK, was not any part of my life at all. Right? And I just had this notion that, to walk the Lake District, it sounds so romantic, right? And so I was going to London for a conference, and I went, I'm going to go a week early, and I'm going to do that. That changed my life.
Wow.
Because I discovered that I just loved that experience of walking. And I've done, since, hiked many, many, many places. Even Hong Kong, big hiking community in Hong Kong. And, but Patagonia. So that experience in the Lake District took me to Torres del Paine in Patagonia, which is those stunning mountains, right?
Wow.
So, so in terms of exciting trips, it's typically the outdoors ones for me.
And in the Lake District, did you walk with other people, or did you get yourself an ordnance survey map and set off over the fells?
I listened to my B&B owner and just set out in the direction that he sent me every day. But every night I went to, I think it's called the Unicorn Pub. Right. I was in Ambleside, and just a tiny little pub, not one where, not a large one where all the tourists, like there were tourists in there, but I mean, the pub could hold maybe 20 people, 25 people. Yeah. And, but I went there every night, and by the fourth night, I'll tell you, I walked in there and everyone was like, hey, it was the most wonderful experience. It really, truly was.
Wow.
So, and those are the things that I love about solo travel, is that it does, people walk into your space and they want you to have a good time in their home, like in their hometown, whatever. They want you to enjoy it. Yeah. They want you to be safe, right? Things like that. So solo travel, and opens up opportunities that other types of travel doesn't.
So for anyone who hasn't done it before, how would you kind of encourage them to maybe get the confidence to embark on a first trip?
Go small. Take a long week, what we call a long weekend.
Same.
Yeah. Take a long weekend and go someplace close by. You're in a culture that you're familiar with, right? But there are going to be things to explore, right? Sit at a cafe and watch the world go by. Do the tourist things. Do it all, and learn how to chat with people that might be nearby you, and find out how to enter into the more local aspect. Like when I went to Ambleside, I said to my B&B owner, I want to know the local pub. Don't send me to the popular pub, right? Send me to the local one. Yeah. And so that's the question that you need to ask to find that local experience.
Absolutely. And then, and I suppose, I can imagine traveling in the 70s when you should have sent a postcard home, that obviously we've now got mobile telephones and emails and all types of things to keep connected with our families and our loved ones back at home. So that significantly shifted things, of course, hasn't it? The ability to keep connected.
Yeah, from a safety perspective, it's made a huge difference. The problem is that they're now so ubiquitous, and they're such a crutch for some people that it's hard to set them aside and just experience, right? Like if it's not on Instagram, did you really experience it? If you didn't tweet it, was it real, right? It's really important, I think, to try to settle in and actually enjoy the experience without documenting every moment.
Yeah.
Take time, maybe you journal, maybe you draw, maybe you take pictures throughout the day, but leave them then and work with them later. But I personally think it's really important to kind of set those things aside and just experience a place. And it's referred to as a digital detox. It's a challenge, right? Not to use your phone for Facebook or other social medias for calling people. Oh, you wouldn't believe where I am, right? Just so that you really can experience it, because it sometimes takes time for you to make certain connections, and those connections can be magical and stay with you the rest of your life.
Yeah, sure. And I think what you mentioned earlier with that, the trip to Europe, and if history is your thing, then doing a trip around one of your interests, and of course you will then meet like-minded people, I would presume, who are interested in similar things to you.
Absolutely. Yeah. It's and that's the thing, is that not only are you meeting like-minded people, but you're going on your own schedule, and you're not feeling like you're dragging anybody along, right? So if museums are your thing, they're not other people's. So the compromising isn't there. Compromising is a healthy thing, but there are times when you travel solo that not having to make that compromise is wonderful.
Now, of course, you meet all different types of cultures and people, and maybe there's a difference of the British solo traveler to the Canadian solo traveler to your American cousins, and I don't know. Do you think with all the people you meet there are different kind of stereotypes of travelers?
No, I don't think so. No. I think that there's variety across the board. There are some of every culture that really want tours, that want that security, want someone else to take care of the planning and the organizing and the logistics on site and the translations, and there for every question. And then there are people of every culture that are just a little bit more adventurous and want to get out and explore and willing to take what happens. Let it happen. Yeah.
Sure.
Yeah.
Can you tell me a bit more about your Wits and Wonder travel course that I noticed?
Oh, okay. Yeah. So that was an interesting thing that came about. Oddly, it came about, I finally got it myself organized just before Christmas last year, and kind of put it out to the community the Friday before Christmas, which is obviously not a really good marketing move. But there was lots of response right away, which was great. It's a course that tries to outline all of the variables that are there for solo travel and all of the options. So, for example, I talked about tours and when you might take a tour. Well, I actually extract that to, I think, maybe 7 to 10 circumstances under which a tour is a really good idea. Right. And then also the type of tours that you can have, because you can have an organized bus tour all the way through to organized trip where you are actually independent, but they've made the plans for you. They pick you up at the airport. They take you to your hotel. They have a concierge there, right? So there's this whole range of products out there for people that want to travel solo that some people they're not aware of. So that's like one thing that I do in the course, but it's 7 weeks,
right?
7 emails. And what I try to do is demystify various aspects of traveling solo, which is the wits side of it. It's about traveling with your wits, traveling safely, traveling efficiently from a cost perspective, right? Whether it's luxury or budget travel, not wasting money is, I think no one likes to waste money.
No.
Right? So it covers all of that side of things, of practical aspects of travel. But then the wonder side of it is to help people rediscover their sense of wonder in the world, because I think that we can go into the world sometimes a little weighted down from our regular life and a little jaded by what we see, right? And to just open our eyes to the wonder of it. And this actually came about where I saw this video of, goodness, I'm going to forget the name of this violinist, this like stunning violinist. I don't want to say Jacob Bell, it's not right. Anyways, this stunning violinist it's a video of him in a subway station in Washington, D.C.
Yeah.
And he's playing, and everyone's just walking by him. and they don't recognize what they have in front of him, that people pay hundreds of dollars to see in concert, and he's right there. And one child comes up and stands and watches him.
I'm familiar with the one.
Yeah. The mother takes him and off they go, right? And it's just like, so the wonder of it is to stop and look and appreciate. One of the things I can remember being on a trip once, and I had met up with this person, and they really, the whole history thing, it's part of me, right? And I said to them, I wonder why there's this gap. Like, there's a house, there's a space, there's a gap, there's this, there's this house that, like, why are all these gaps, right? And she went, well, I don't know, what does that mean, right? But it's reflective of what's gone on historically within the space. Yeah. So to stand and watch and look and see what's in front of me, and choose to see it with wonder, right, can reveal so much in terms of the history, the culture of the place that you're visiting. So I've gone on a little bit too much, I think. Mm-hmm. But that's what the Wits and Wonder course is about. It's about traveling with your wits efficiently, cost efficiently, safely, smartly, but also doing it with a sense of wonder.
Brilliant. Well, I think that's something which we should all take part in and find out, and be curious about what's going on around and about us, and exactly. And taking that time to breathe and consider. So I think that's wise advice. I think we should direct our listeners to your website. Now, where can people find out more about you and all the great work that you do?
We are solotravelerworld.com. Right. And on Facebook, we are the Solo Travel Society. So there's a difference. Anyone smart marketing person would say brand it the same way. Again, don't always follow the rules, but 250,000 people have found us there. Wow. And it's a very vibrant community. They share information every day. Great. About traveling solo, and we share information as well, so that people, we have 1,400 posts on our site about traveling solo. So we pull up some things from the archive so that people know what's there actually. Yeah. And but it's also a sense of community, and that's why it's a Solo Travel Society. And actually, one of the things I am very proud of is the fact that for, I think, at least 8 of the 10 years that we've been, that I've been doing this, we have had a contribution to our website every week of those 8 years from our readers. Great. So it's either a photo, so we call it the pick of the week, or it's a destination story. And we have a form that people can complete, upload some photos, things of this nature, and write a piece about the destination they've been to, so that other readers can benefit from their travel experience. Mm. And it broadens out, I can't go everywhere in the world, right? So it broadens out the value that we can offer to solo travelers. So it's wonderful that they contribute so well.
And if people are looking for inspiration, of course, that's going to be one of the first places they should go, I would have thought, to listen to other people's stories and to get inspiration of the experiences that they've had and they could have.
Exactly. Yeah, it's pretty wonderful.
Wonderful. Well, thank you so much, Janice, for chatting with me today. And we'll put all those links to the Facebook site and your website and your course and all the rest of it in the show notes. Once again, thank you very much for all your time.
Thank you. It's been a great pleasure.
Thanks once again to Janice Waugh of Solo Traveller. As always, to find out more about Janice and Solo Traveller, check out the show notes on our website, theretirementcafe.co.uk, where you'll also find some useful links. Now, Janice has very kindly given us three free places on her Wits and Wonders travel course, a 7-week course on how to travel solo delivered by email. For your chance to win, leave us a review on iTunes and then visit our website to answer the question, what's the name of Lesson 2 in the course? As ever, if you've enjoyed this episode, please do leave us a review on iTunes and be sure to subscribe either on our website or your preferred podcast player, so you never miss an episode. And to find out who's coming up on the podcast, visit theretirementcafe.co.uk/upcoming. Thanks as always to the Timeline app for sponsoring the podcast. You can find out more about their software on our website too, or by visiting timelineapp.co. So until next time, this is Justin King helping you feel more informed in your retirement.
Thank you for listening to the Retirement Café Podcast with Justin King. To find out more, you can find us online at theretirementcafe.co.uk.